On the slide, oak tree का
Yeah,
leaf है.
oak.
हाँ.
Right.
तो वो टेम्पलेट है हम लोग का म्यूजियम का ना, कुछ एनिमल्स का है, कुछ प्लांट्स का है, सो आई चूज द प्लांट वन.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jobin. A very good afternoon to everybody. I welcome all the participants here for the talk that we have titled Wallich and his contribution to the Indian natural history. With us, we have a speaker today, Dr. Rani Prakash. She is a senior curator of General Herbarium at the National History Museum, London. She is also one of the vice president of the Society of Ethnobotany at Lucknow and subject editor for Nordic Journal of Botany. In the past, she has worked at Kew Garden as the conservation guide compiler. She has done her PhD from University of Reading on the collections of Samuel Brown from the late 17th century Peninsular India, where she has investigated plant use through time and space across different cultures. She has also compared medicine plants use across Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Sri Lanka. She has research interest in herbarium, island biogeography, and collection management. Her main research is focused on ethnobotany, medicine plants, cross-cultural studies of medicine plants uses amongst the various tribal groups and tropical plant families. Currently, she is involved in developing a data set of plants from South Asia, which it will be soon available on the Natural History Museum's public data portal. She is especially interested in developing new collaborations from India and would be very happy to hear from people interested in ethnobotanical research and those who would be willing to collaborate regarding plants of South India, South Asia, taxonomic and floristic concepts. Today's talk is about collaborative project that Dr. Rani has worked on in the past, which involved working with the British Library, Kew Gardens, Botanical Survey of India, and the National Archives at New Delhi. We hope her talk will inspire youngsters to take up careers in botany. So with this brief introduction to our speaker, I welcome all of you once again, and I request that we all mute our speakers so that we have least disturbance. And kindly share your questions in the chat box, which we will be taking up towards the end of the talk. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Raniji.
Okay. Thank you, Nouri. And thank you also. I don't think I have seen Dr. Abdul Karim over here. Is he there?
Dr. Karim is traveling actually, so he's unable to
So I would like
join.
to thank him for sending me the invitation letter, and also to all the people behind the scene who are trying to arrange this meeting online, and also to all the viewers. I think you have joined today afternoon. I think it's Friday afternoon, so people must be, quite relaxed and they would like to go home, I think, after the talk. So thank you for joining, and it's morning over here, 10:30, nearly 10:45 for me in London. So I thought, of sharing this topic. This is a project I've worked on in the past, and I've titled this Wallich and his contribution to the Indian natural history. And I think I've got around 30 slides, so it should take me around half an hour or so. And then if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take that towards the end. So as Nouri introduced earlier, this is a joint project that I worked on over a decade ago now. And this was in collaboration with Kew Gardens, the British Library, the Central National Herbarium, Botanical Survey of India, and the National Archives at New Delhi. And the output of all this work that we did, it was available at that link that is given below, q.org/Wallich. However, I think of late, Q has changed the page. So I don't know where they have taken this. Currently, it's not showing on the data portal. I believe they'll be putting it up as a data set separately after a few days. So just to share the screen, this is, I particularly wanted to share because even when I was a student in botany, I didn't know about this. So those who are studying botany or even, not even students of botany, where is this place? This is the largest banyan tree, one of the world's largest banyan tree in the gardens of Botanical Survey of India at Howrah. And so it's quite old, I think, nearly 300, more than 300 years old. And from its crop roots, it keeps on growing and it has spread to quite a wide area now. And so the reason I showed this slide is, people should get to know about the surveys early on. So I think your professors will tell you what is the Botanical Survey of India, the Zoological Survey of India, what all careers you can pursue when you're studying botany. Because very few students from India go in research. They either take up academic post or many people, simply stop studying botany right in the beginning. So many people study chemistry, then they go to physics, zoology, and there are very few who are studying botany. But, do look up into the careers, and there are many institutes across India. So my intention was to show, do look up into this Botanical Survey of India, and they advertise their post, and there are direct entries as well in the organization. So do keep, checking, speak to the people. I think in the south you have in Coimbatore, Botanical Survey of India. So go and speak to the head of office there or other scientists, how to join as a research assistant or how to join, even as a databasing assistant, what are the careers there. So just to give you a brief introduction, the slide I showed previously is from this Botanical Survey of India, the Calcutta Botanic Garden. So this was founded in 1787 by Colonel Robert Kidd. And then during that time, the name was the Honorable Company's Botanic Garden, official name during the company's rule, the East India Company's rule. And then in 1860s, it was called the Royal Botanic Garden, Calcutta. And in 2009, they changed the name now, and it's called AJCB. So this is Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose Botanic Garden. And it has been, monitored by the Ministry of Environment and Forest, Government of India. So it comes under that ministry. And the main goal of the garden was, during that time, the main interest was introduction, cultivation, and distribution of plants which had commercial value and which were economically important. So such as they were cultivating cinnamon, then, indigo dye, and there were a lot of plants which were of commercial value. So that is how the garden was established. And here's a slide. On the left-hand side, you can see Kew Gardens, which was built in 1759. And on the right is the slide of Botanical Survey of India Garden, and which is in 1787. So you can see the layout of the garden is quite similar. They are both next to the river, and they both draw the water for irrigation of the plants from this river. So if you get a chance, I think, to come to Kew Gardens, have a look here, and also visit the Botanical Survey of India Garden, the Acharya Jagdish Chandra Bose Garden in Calcutta. And it's quite nice, how the tidal water comes from the river in the gardens, how there are gates, how, one area gets filled, then they close the gates, and then the water is diverted to other parts of the garden. So it's quite interesting. And there are many lakes inside the garden as well. So just to give a brief idea about the various superintendents. So it was started by Robert Kidd, who proposed the establishment in 1786, and he was made the first superintendent in 1787. This was followed by William Roxburgh, and many of us, call him the father of botany in India. And then he took charge in 1793, and this was followed by Francis Buchanan Hamilton. He was there for a very short time, from November 1814 to Feb 1815. And then after this, Nathaniel Wallich was given the charge. So basically, he joined as a surgeon. He was a Danish surgeon. And when he joined the Botanical Survey of India, he was a field botanist first. And then he was made the superintendent of the Botanical Garden. And he's also renowned as the first director of the Indian Museum, which is in Calcutta. And he's very famous for Tentamen Flora Nepalensis illustrating. And this was published between 1824 to 26. And again, Plantae Asiatica Rayoris between 1830 to 32. And he's also famous for listing over 20,000 plants in the Wallich catalog. And if you look at his biography, like he's survived by son George Charles Wallich. He's a very famous, he was a very famous oceanographer, and her daughter Hannah Sarah. So that's just his brief from 1786 to his lifetime, 1854. And this is the work. Our work focused around, writing a brief biography about Wallich. And then we looked at the specimens that were collected by him, or the various collectors that were collecting for him. And we looked also at the drawings that we have at the Kew Gardens and also at Natural History Museum. And we also looked at the correspondence when he was the superintendent there, when he was writing to various people and the various correspondence he got, from across the world. So this is all about the project. So I believe this will give you idea about some collectors that you're interested in. Suppose Bedo, who's from South India, he collected a lot from Tamil Nadu. You can do similar projects like this, focusing around, his biography, the specimens that he collected, the drawings, and also the correspondence. So here's his original handwritten Wallich catalog. And so actually, there are 9,149 plants and there are about 20,000 entries. So this is just a scanned copy and it's not very clear copy. So just to give you his handwriting, how he looks like, his handwriting looks like. And here, this is a photo from a Natural History Museum. You can see, a list of plants on the right and Plantatia tigeraris. And on the left, I've just given a brief about the various collectors who are collecting for him. So you can see Wallich plant collectors such as Robert Blinkworth, Kamrup, then Gomez, Francis de Silva, Emma Smith, Bharat Singh, and then George Porter, Henry Price, and then Akul Muhammad. Apart from this, there were other collectors. So all these are listed in the Wallich catalog. And Plantatia tigeraris was one of the first, description of plants. And this is quite an interesting thing because around that time, he was the first one to use lithography. He was the first one to use lithography press in India. And this came out around 1830. So, there are description of plants and nice, descriptions and figures. And Wallich was quite interested, in looking at plants and, introducing some of these plants from India to UK. And later on in the slides, we'll see some plants which were introduced from UK to India as well. So here's a picture that was drawn, watercolor by Gorachand, artist. And this was produced in Plantatia tigeraris in volume 3 and plate 246. And this was named after James Edward Smith. By Wallich, and right hand side you can see he sent the seeds to England, and this is the plant which is growing at Royal Botanic Garden, Edinburgh. So this was introduced from India over here. This plant grows in Western Himalayas. And again, this is very common now. You might see this in a lot of shops as a cultivated plant. This is Berginia ciliata. Again, Wallich introduced this around this 1828. And then this plant is native to Central Asia, Afghanistan to China and the Himalayas. And this was introduced by Wallich. And here's a picture of Rosa microphylla. So this is on the left is the drawing, and on the right, this is how it looks in the wild. Again, this is native to Himalayas, and this was introduced in England in the early 19th century. And you'll find this commonly in the gardens now over here. And it grows between that altitude over 4,200 feet. And here's this plant, Clematis montana. So this is a hand-colored lithographic drawing of Gorachand. And this was introduced by Lady Amherst. She was the wife of a Governor General around that time. And so this was introduced from UK to India over there. And this we all know, Impatiens glandulifera, Himalayan balsam. You'll see this commonly coming out around the monsoon's time. And when I was a master's student in India, I remember, we used to go early morning looking at the buds and try to fix the buds to do some cytological experiments. And this has become a national weed in UK now. In fact, it has spread so much in the north, especially in the Scotland, that they are having programs to eradicate this particular weed. And it's a beautiful looking plant. The pink flowers, but then there are also issues of, what are the native plants, how it, when the other introduced species come, how they take over the natural vegetation. So there are a lot of problems around this plant in UK at the moment. And just to share some ideas, like Wallich was also very instrumental in how to transport seeds. So he's very famous, for innovative method of packing and transporting ships, the seeds by ships. So he coated the seeds with brown sugar and he packed them in brown envelopes. And he used to say, like, seeds should be, recently gathered, ripe and leave Britain in March to April to arrive in India by August or September. And then during that time, it was taking around 6 to 8 months to travel between Europe and India. But with the advent of steamships in 1820s and the building of Suez Canal, this was reduced to just 6 weeks. So he was quite happy with that. And he wrote in one of his correspondence that let me just move this over here. Can't see this properly. Yeah. Then he wrote that, I hail with anxious impatience the establishment of this mode of communication by means of which seeds and plants will have a chance of surviving the transmission beyond anything they now possess, even under the most attractive treatment and greatest solicitude for their preservation. So this he wrote in 1833. And you must have seen this Ray Desmond's of European flora, discovery of the European flora. So this one shows, various figures, how seeds were transported on the ship. So on the left-hand side top figure, you can see a box, and then the box was completely closed, and over there on the sides, air would flow in. And this is a wooden casket with wires around it. So they would, hold the plants inside. And on the bottom left-hand side, you would see with the soil ball, the plants were kept in this glass box. So, and they were tied with thread so the, plants will survive. And then this was a wooden container with different compartments to store seeds. And again, on the right-hand side, you have this picture of a tarpaulin where, this box was specially designed to avoid the spray of, salt from the seawater, so the plants could survive. So these were various ways how they were designing things, how to transport seeds. So he's famous for that as well. So I think if you get a chance, do look into this book, The Ray's Discovery of Indian Flora. And here's a list. You'll get this in IPNI as well. Some of the plant species named in honor of Wallich. So there are many plants named after him. And recently, a few years ago, I think this came around 2015, Edinburgh Botanic Garden, especially Mark Watson, he designed this Wallich online catalog. And here you can search, simply if you have the Wallich catalog number, suppose 9120, you can simply enter the number there and click on search, and that will give you what is the current accepted name of that species. So it's a very good resource. If people are not aware, you should write down this information. Wallich.rbg.info, and then here you can find a lot of things. And the bottom line here says use the search box to find a page, entry number or taxon name, or use the catalog pages and catalog entries to browse the Wallich collection. Because many things, plant names have changed over all these years, and this contains 9,148 entries, 48 entries. And they have also transcribed, all the collector names. Also, you'll come across many spellings like Sylhet, Sylhet, which is in Bangladesh. And then you have Sylhet Mountains, Sillet. So that mountain range goes from Assam, from West Bengal towards Bangladesh. So it's interesting to know, and all this information is nicely transcribed. So if you're having difficulties in reading label information, especially old handwriting, this is a very good resource. So I would definitely recommend this to you all. And just to show a screen, like this is how you can see the number, Wallich list number 4670. And if you type this number on that catalog, it will tell you the exact name. So it's Clematis acuminata. And also just to show you on the left-hand side, is the drawing. And it says by Wallich in 1828, East India Company. And on the right-hand side, you can see the herbarium specimen that we have. So by looking at the drawing, we were trying to identify what is this plant by comparing the collections in a herbarium. So Tim Attridge in Kew was working with me during that time. So his job was to look at the drawings and then identify the plant specimens. So this is from that project. And for non-botanists, I don't know if there are any non-botanists in the group who are watching this talk. So just to show you what is a herbarium specimen, these are dried, preserved plant specimens arranged systematically. And then you can use them for various purposes. And a typical herbarium will have the label information, such as the taxonomic name of the plant, the collector name, the collector number, the date when it was collected, habitat, locality data, the phenology information, whether it was flowering, fruiting, common name and uses. And, there are many papers of late in the last few years that have come out about, how herbarium are useful resources for research. And I still believe, even today, I think most of the herbaria are still not used to their full potential for research. So herbarium is a very good resource for doing, various research theme and various research studies. So do look up into all these papers. Simply do, in Google Scholar, herbarium, and you'll have many papers that come out. So a few years ago, even we wrote a paper from our Natural History Museum, led by Mark Corrine, where we have said about, uses and uses of herbaria. And there's a very famous paper by Vicky Funkworth from Smithsonian in US, where she has written about over 100 uses of an herbarium. And then after that, many papers have come out. So do look up, what are the various uses. This will give you a lot of ideas how to promote and use your herbarium for research. And also, there are many ways, herbaria are used, as I mentioned from these papers. It also tells you the history. So on the left-hand side, you can see, it says sheet reconstructed our damage by enemy action on 10 September 1940. So during the Second World War, a herbarium was bombed, and so there was a lot of damage. So, these were salvaged and how they cut it out and stuck on another paper. So you can retrace, the steps, what all stages the specimen has gone through. And again, over here, you can see the Wallich catalog number towards the left-hand side, bottom left-hand side, 1482. And this is Lysimachia japonica. And here's a picture I'm sharing. When we visited the gardens, there's a monument in the botanical garden in Calcutta on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side is where he's buried in London in the Kensal Green Cemetery. So I'm thankful to Mary Murphy for sharing this picture with me. And so, as part of this project, we request people with Wallich holdings, because there are, collections in Blatter Herbarium, there are collections in Botanical Survey of India, there are collections around the world in Belgium, in Austria, even in Africa. So all those, institutes, if they could just, submit the data to this particular website, all the collections will be united together. And this also tells you where are the gaps in the collections. And it is a very good resource for researchers, historians, and amateurs to look into it. So this is a famous quote, which I like, where Wallich said, "I shall not sink into oblivion. My plants will survive when I shall not even be a name." So this is a quote from Director's Correspondence that Wallich wrote to William Hooker on 1st of January, 1828. And I saw this when I was at Kew. It was put on display in the library. So I just wrote that down because it's very nice, what he's saying and how passionate he was about plants. And somehow he was not that recognized in, his contribution to botany. So by doing this project, we thought, we would raise his profile and let the world know like how important this figure is towards Indian botany. And so there's a paper, you can find this reference that I wrote on Wallich on his contribution to the Indian natural history that came out in Redia in 2016. And after that, I thought what all work I can do, because when I visited the gardens, I saw this on the left-hand side. You can see the sample volume from the Wallich's correspondence that was at the garden. And it was not in a very good state. You can see the paper is very fragile and brittle, and even the binding is coming off. So as part of this, learning, I applied for some funding in 2015 for INTAC, which is the funding for Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage. And I asked them to provide me with some boxes, these are acid-free archival boxes. So we tied these books with cotton tape and we put them in these boxes. So this was the suggestion given to us by the paper conservator, that this is how it should be done. And every single page from this correspondence should be scanned and put it in a sleeve, not a plastic sleeve, a Melonix sleeve, which is conservation grade. So I think BSI is working on that now. And that's how they can conserve this for eternity then. And again, the work that I did there, I wrote a paper called, along with Dr. Pramjit Singh, who's the former director of BSI, with this title, Stabilization and Conservation of the Wallich Correspondence Held at Central Natural Herbarium, Calcutta. And you can see that in NATSCA notes and comments. That's the link for it. And of course, you can do further reading for Wallich and his contribution, the paper that I wrote in 2016. So I hope this will inspire, students to look at other collectors in India. You can take many other collectors from South India. So Bedom was collecting quite a lot. Robert White, his collections are there in Coimbatore. Then there's J.S. Gamble. And there are many other collectors, I think. If you go to Presidency College in Madras, do look up into the herbarium. There's Fison's collections there. He wrote, Flora of Madras and a lot of those things. And there are important things even from Karnataka over there. So I believe, all these are nice things which the young people, those who are listening to this talk, can take up as a research project and work further. So that's it. If you have any questions, I'll be very happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raniji. So that was quite a detailed sketch that you gave about the work that Wallich has done. So in the participants, if there is somebody who would like to ask directly the question, kindly unmute and go ahead with the question. Anybody from the participants? Okay.
So I wrote my email there. If anybody is feeling shy, they can always drop me an email. And then, the other thing that I'm currently working on now is plants of South Asia. So a few years ago, I had people from Botanical Survey of India where they scanned over 40,000 specimens. And I'm towards the last 300 records now. They've all been transcribed. So that will be a data set which we're adding to a portal called Plants of South Asia. And I'll be continuing to add the other collections from a herbarium. So I definitely look forward to volunteers or even people from TDU. If you can join up, I've given you the link already, Noori. So I would want to train you first. So that offer is only open to you at the moment. Once I train you, then you can, train others, and then we'll take further volunteers. Sure. So, people can transcribe data for me from South India. And then we can do nice, interesting projects over there.
Right. Thank you so much, Raniji. So if nobody is having any question, there were participants who have shared their questions in the form. So I just would read out. Did Wallich correlate any of his findings with medicine, as he's also a surgeon by profession? So this is a question by a participant.
He was definitely using some of the plants, and you can read that in detail in that Ray Desmond's, flora, discovery of the Indian flora. So there he talks about some of the plants which people are using for gout. And so he said, I've tried that and it works for me. So he's giving example of what is that common plant that you find in South India? Asclepias gigantea. He's talking about that. Okay. And so being a surgeon, definitely when he came across this local uses of plants, he was also using in his day-to-day life, but he was not practicing it on others. He was using it for himself. And, initially when Wallich came, he was, employed to the Danish settlement near Serampur in West Bengal. So that's why he was a surgeon. And when the Britishers came, they imprisoned him. And because of his merit that he's a doctor, he was released on parole. And then, during that time, it was very common for surgeons to be trained botanists. So we go the other way around now. People think, it's much nicer to be a medical surgeon. Whereas during that time, if you see, most of the employees for the East India Company were all surgeons who came from Scotland. So be it Wallich, and there are so many others that are listed earlier. Most of them have got surgeon background. And then Henry Naughty wrote a very nice book on all this, English surgeons or Scottish surgeons who went to, who were part of East India Company. So definitely botany was an important element, what are the local plants, how they are used, and they were using this in their day-to-day lives. And knowledge from India, from that continent, was very much sought after by the West. That's why there was more interest in plants, especially with their medicinal uses, because they were even, using quinine for malaria for their army, the soldiers. So they were more inclined towards discovering, new drugs which they could use for the army and, all those kind of things.
Yes, so very true. So the next question is, why Wallich is not praised like the other botanists in the past?
Yeah, so it depends, no, how you talk about yourself, how you present yourself. So that's why our aim at part of this project was to bring him to the fore, that, he's an important element, and he stayed for nearly 29 years as superintendent. That's a lot of time in the botanic garden. And then he developed so many things. And the way he collected plants, mostly from Himalayas, Nepal and all that side. And he was also facilitating people to come to the garden, and he was arranging the expeditions to the Himalayas. So as part of this World Collections program, we thought, his personality and his contribution must be brought into light. That's how we worked on this project. And so likewise, I would say Robert White is an important collector as well. His herbarium is in Coimbatore. Even he has not been, praised so much. And we have a lot of his collections in a herbarium. And it gives you, Sispara Ghat, Thinne Valley, and a lot of those names. So where he was collecting. So it's quite interesting. If somebody wants to take up Robert White from your herbarium as a student or even as a master project, that will be very interesting.
Thank you so much. Another question is, who are the major Indian botanists who have worked with Wallich in India to explore the Indian floristic wealth? So along with them.
So around that time, I think if you look into Wallich catalog and some of the names of the collectors, so definitely you'll come across some names. Indian botanists are working with Wallich. And also you have to look into the office records of the Botanical Survey of India, who was, actually employed there and, who were working with them. So some of the artists' name we know, like Gorachand, and there are so many others that were commissioned by Wallich, especially to draw the plants. So also these people, I think, go unnoticed. And yesterday we had a very interesting meeting with the University of Reading on collections and culture theme. So somebody said, a very nice title, in one simple title, you can understand. It said, "The Days Perished and Published." So what do you mean by this? It means there are a lot of people who are going, around collecting the plants, and then there are plant mounters who are mounting this, and all these people go unnoticed. They are not recorded. So their contribution should not go unnoticed. So this is more along the theme of decolonizing the collections, who actually collected and who contributed. So nowadays people are focusing on that, so like we come across a lot of collections from Himalayas, collected by J.D.S. Stanton, James Sykes and Gamble around 1950s, and they have lepcha collectors collecting from them. So if you go into the Calcutta Botanic Garden, some of the labels, many of them, in fact, you'll know the local name of the collector who was collecting. So nobody is talking about the local collector. For them, it's just a person, a local person. You have given him some money or maybe some remuneration by way of food or some money for the day. And you ask him, oh, can you go and collect so-and-so plants for me? So those are all the titles, I think, which really need to be explored as well. And even there were some ladies that I came across some names. Anita Rani, and there are 2-3 people I came across some names. So at least we have fewer labels with the names, but the garden has got many labels with names of local people there. So those are the resources you'll have to explore. Check the office records and you'll know the names.
Thank you so much. The other question from the participant is, if in the protologue, it's only written as a Wallich catalog, but there is no catalog number, then what to do? There is no way to find the original type. In that case, does it require a epitype or neotype?
No. So first of all, even if the number is not listed, it's very important to see the specimens first. So, and most of the names published during Wallich times are nominum nudum. So because he was not describing the names properly and not publishing. So they were basically, nominum nudum, like not validly published names. So even if you don't find the catalog number, always drop an email, not only to Kew and Natural History Museum, also drop an email to Belgium. They have collections of Wallich, also in Austria, also in South Africa. First of all, ask, do you have any specimens collected by Wallich under so-and-so species? Then you should try to, give the synonym names as well. Only when you have got the specimens on loan, and people are very happy to send things on loan. So have a look over there, and then only you should look into all those options. So I think the concept of, epitype, neotype should be made very clear when to use those kind of things. And I don't know if people are aware, the Code Decoded book by Nick Turland. If you don't have, it's available on Amazon. Have a look over there. And then last time also when I visited with Sandy, there was a lot of confusion. So people have the impression that epitype means simple illustration. So they think, an epitype is an illustration and you can designate that when you don't find a type. So I think the concepts of, typification is still not very clear. And I would advise these people to look into that, the Code Decoded, read it thoroughly, and then, think of ways how to go forward. So what you do first, if the author would have seen the specimen, so suppose I collected one specimen and I collected 4 others, the best where I'm describing, I'm keeping it for myself, I'll call that holotype. Remaining, I sent one to TDU, I sent one to Q, those will become isotypes. Later on, if somebody, does not find the holotype, and then they want to, change some name or give another name to it, so I would have seen that specimen. So in the rank of, doing things, then you would designate a lectotype first. And there are many papers in India who simply give lectotypification. So I think there should be also, due concern and care taken into consideration when to give lectotypification and when to give neotypification. So advise your people to look into that Nick Turland's book, The Code Decoded. It's available online, PDF. So you can, I think if you don't have a copy, I'll email it to you. I've got a PDF copy, so you can circulate to your students.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, the other 2 questions are more related to the herbarium. The participant asked that how to prevent fungal growth on the herbarium sheet. So I think.
So that's an interesting question, given the climate conditions in India, where it is so hot and humid. So, you need to have the right environmental conditions there, first of all, in the herbarium. So the ideally suggested gold standards that we follow here is you have to have the temperature of around 17 degrees centigrade and humidity between 40 and 50. It should not go above that. And if there is dampness in the herbarium, definitely that will promote mold and all this fungus and all. So make sure you don't have any damp areas over there. And then there are, a lot of mold, humidity removal things, desiccators that you should have in your herbarium. And for that, you should try to read Dan Britson's and Leonard Foreman's book, The Herbarium Handbook. There they give how to maintain a herbarium. And if you notice any fungus, what would you do? How would you treat it? So either you freeze the specimen completely at minus 30 degrees for 3 days, 72 hours, or use the, other thermolignum method, heat methods. Because in India, I think what BSI is using, they call some external companies, they close the entire room and they heat up the room to a certain temperature where all the, fungal spores and all that die away. And if you notice any fungal specimen, you should try to quickly eliminate it, remove it away from there, from rest of the sheets, because the hyphae will grow and it will grow, go into other specimens as well. So try to treat it as well.
Yeah, that's a very, very important.
By this cold method or the thermolignum method. And the other method is you should try to use 80% IMS and use a brush and try to remove all the fungus from that specimen.
Thank you so much. I hope the student is able to manage his herbarium specimen much better with the advice that you have given. I think that this question is inspired. The question is how to become a herbarium curator.
Yeah, so To become a herbarium curator in India, first of all, you need to have a graduation degree, then try to do your post-graduation, and then look into BSIs and all this, A-Tree and other organization, the botanical gardens. There's one in Trivandrum, BCGI's garden, and Jawaharlal Nehru Tropic Botanical Gardens, whatever it is called. So look at the websites over there. Normally they'll employ people as a research assistant, so you can pursue your PhD from there. Once you've got your PhD, then you should look into openings. BSI normally advertise for curatorial assistant, so you can join whenever the post are advertised. And curation are skills slowly then you'll develop over a period of time. So what all things are involved? So as a curator, first of all, the job profile, what it involves is care and maintenance of the collections. Then not only that, you have scholarship, you have to write papers, you have to deal with loan queries, imaging queries, constantly update your collections as per the latest taxonomic arrangement. And so there are many other things, pulling out the specimens for exhibitions, loans, plant mounting. So look into the job profile and then keep an eye for BSI and other botanic gardens. They advertise the post, so you can apply for that. And in England, of course, we have some trainee partnerships. There is we get students over here as to do some projects for 3 months. There's a museum studies placement in University of Leicester, and there's another one in Oxford. And if you get in touch with Dr. Venugopal, who's the former director of Indian Museum, he's in Kerala now. They also have a center for intangible natural heritage. So get in touch with him, and then he'll also point out some courses that you can do from Kerala and become herbarium curator. And I can see just now Dr. Sampath Kumar over there. Hello, sir. So talk to Dr. Sampath Kumar as well. He's a very senior person in BSI and he can guide all the students.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah, same here. So I hope I answered that question.
Yes, thank you so much, Raniji. I'm sure that have made a participant excited enough to become a curator in future with a lot of hard work. So Haripriya is there. I request Haripriya that you can ask the question directly. Haripriya?
I can read a question. She's
Yes,
asking
ma'am.
tell me.
Yeah,
मैम
please
एक्चुअली
go on,
मैं
Haripriya.
बक्सेस पॉलीचोना पे काम कर रही हूँ। तो मुझे ना मैंने सर्च किए थे, भी मैंने सर्च किया था अपनी एफआरआई हर्बेरियम में भी मैंने सर्च किया था। तो मुझे मैम इसका ना होलोटाइप कहीं मुझे दिखा 1859 में बेलोन ने इसको बक्से सेम परवारेंट से अलग किया था। तो उस टाइम पे क्या हर्बेरियम स्पेसिमेन बनते थे, और दूसरा ये अगर बनते थे तो मुझे इसका होलोटाइप कहाँ पर मिल सकता है?
तो इसका तुमने कौन सा रिसोर्स देखा बोला? अभी तुमने केवल एक ही जगह देखा ना
मैम? क्यू।
तो क्यू के अलावा क्या तुमने बीएसआई में चेक किया? क्या तुमने नेचुरल हिस्ट्री म्यूजियम के वेबसाइट पे देखा? क्या तुमने जीबीएफ पे देखा? ये सारे ऑनलाइन डेटाबेसेस है। जे स्टोर भी है, जीपीआई प्लांट्स जे स्टोर
उसमें भी देखा था, उसमें नहीं था। एफआरआई की हर्बेरियम में भी नहीं था। बीएसआई में, बीएसआई देहरादून यहाँ देखा था, वहां भी
तो
नहीं
होता
था।
क्या है ना, काफी सारी चीजें डेटाबेस्ड और ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल नहीं है। So you should drop an email to the curators of all this herbaria and say, I'm working on so and so. ये exactly जो question लिखा है उसको email डालो, and if you have the specimen, can you point out? तो हम लोग हमारे collection में फिर ढूंढेंगे इसको, हम लोग उसका synonyms भी check करते हैं, और वो है कि नहीं specimen, then we'll reply.
ओके मैम।
तो सारी चीजें, सबका पूरा हर्बेरियम 100% डिजिटाइज नहीं हुआ है, तो बहुत सारी चीजें अभी भी डेटा पोर्टल पे नहीं है। सो सिंपली डोंट गो ऑन डेटा पोर्टल, यू हैव टू राइट टू द क्यूरेटर्स। नॉट ओनली नेचुरल हिस्ट्री म्यूजियम, क्यू गार्डन, एडिनब्रा में भी लिखो, फिर सैनबी में भी लिखो, साउथ अफ्रीका में, ऑस्ट्रिया में भी लिखो, और जो बॉटनिकल गार्डन बेल्जियम में उनको भी लिखो, वहां पे भी सब वॉलिक के कलेक्शंस हैं।
एक्चुअली मैम जिन्होंने मतलब बैलोन ने इनको वो किया था ना,
हम्म
सेपरेट किया था, वो
हम्म
फ्रेंच थे।
हाँ, तो फ्रांस का जो पेरिस हर्बेरियम है ना, पेरिस का तो फुली डिजिटाइज हो गया है सारा हर्बेरियम, उनका पूरा ऑनलाइन अवेलेबल है।
ओके ओके मैम।
तो वो फ्रांस के हर्बेरियम में देखो, और अगर वो हर तुम्हें उसमें नहीं दिखता ऑनलाइन वेबसाइट में, हो सकता है उनकी कुछ अनमाउंटेड स्पेसिमेंस होंगे जो अभी उन्होंने माउंट नहीं करे हैं, बैकलॉग में होगा उनका। तो उनको एक ईमेल डाल के पूछो वहां पे कि ये
ठीक,
वेबसाइट पे
ओके
नहीं
मैम।
दिखा है, आपके पास ये स्पेसिमेन है क्या? इफ इट्स नॉट देयर, इज इट लाइकली दैट यू स्टिल हैव सम अनमाउंटेड मटेरियल फ्रॉम इंडिया एंड इज इट ओवर देयर, ऐसे क्वेरी डालो।
ओके ओके मैम, थैंक यू।
ओके।
मैम मेरा एक और क्वेश्चन है। आप ये जो डेटा ऐड करने का था वेबसाइट पे, जो वेबसाइट है, तो मैम उसका क्या प्रोसीजर है कि अगर हम कोई इंफॉर्मेशन ऐड करते हैं, कोई स्पेसिमेन का या कुछ भी कहीं से, अगर हम कोई कलेक्ट करके लाते हैं सैंपल, उसका अगर हमें डेटा कोई ऐड करना है तो कैसे, वो क्या प्रोसीजर है
उसकी
या डायरेक्टली?
वेबसाइट पे तुम हमारे नेचुरल हिस्ट्री म्यूजियम केस पे बोल रही हो?
मैम एक स्लाइड था आपका।
हाँ हाँ, तो वो जो है ना, तुम लोग क्या डेटाबेस फॉलो कर रहे हो वहां पे? अगर तुम लोग कलेक्ट करते हो तो सिंपल एक्सेल स्प्रेडशीट में डेटा डालते होंगे ना?
मैम एक्चुअली ऐसा मुझे कोई आइडिया नहीं, मेरा बैकग्राउंड नहीं है एक्चुअली, बैकग्राउंड की हूँ।
तो तुम ना कहाँ पर काम करती हो? तुम कहाँ पर हो? बैंगलोर में हो?
नो मैम, फॉरेस्ट रिसर्च इंस्टीट्यूट देहरादून।
हाँ, अरे तो कितना अच्छा है वहां पे। वहां पे कौन है वो प्रोफेसर, क्या नाम था उनका? एन से नाम है जो,
नैथानी सर।
नैथानी। और वो तुम लोग का तो हर्बियरम कितना अच्छा है, देहरादून का। मैंने देखा है
मैम
कुछ साल पहले, वो वर्ल्ड में मेरे को लगता है और किसी का वैसा है नहीं। इट्स सो मॉडर्न एंड नाइस।
अभी digitize, अभी वो पूरी तरीके से डिजिटाइज तो हुआ नहीं है।
हाँ,
उन्हीं जो हर्बेरियम स्पेसिमेन है उन्हीं को स्कैन के वही उसी को ही डिजिटाइज कर रहे हैं। ऐसा कोई एक्सेल का है एग्जैक्टली मुझे भी नहीं पता।
तो नहीं नहीं, तो उधर का क्यूरेटर कौन है अभी करंटली? नैथानी तो रिटायर हो गए ना?
नैथानी सर तो रिटायर हो गए हैं।
हम्म।
शायद से अनूप सर या संगीता गुप्ता मैम है।
हाँ, तो उनसे बात करो ना, क्योंकि ये लोग जो भी डिजिटाइज कर रहे हैं वो कोई डेटाबेस में डाल रहे होंगे, फाइल एज नेम कम से कम डाल रहे होंगे, और वो रीजन डाल रहे होंगे कहाँ का है कलेक्शन, एंड दैट्स हाउ देन दे विल डिस्प्ले दैट
वो
ऑन द
तो
डेटा पोर्टल।
एक्चुअली हर्बेरियम जो स्पेसिमेन थे सारे तो मैंने देख लिए हैं मैम कि कहाँ से कौन सा सैंपल कलेक्टेड है, लेकिन कोई भी होलोटाइप उसमें नहीं था।
हम्म। हाँ, तो जरूरी नहीं है होगा वहां पर होलोटाइप। तुम ये डेटाबेसिंग का पूछ रही हो ना, डेटाबेस कैसे करते हैं?
हरिप्रिया।
हेलो।
हाँ, तुम क्वेश्चन क्या पूछ रही
हाँ
थी कि वो कैसे डेटाबेस
ये
करना है
सुन,
ना?
हाँ हाँ ये सब एक्चुअली यहाँ पर क्या है कि जो भी हमारे हर्बेरियम स्पेसिमेन है उनको स्कैन करके उनका डेटा बस डाला जाता है, लेकिन आपके वाले में क्या मतलब प्रोसेस है उसको करने का, वो
हम
पूछ रही
लोग
थी
का
मैं।
तो जो है, हम लोग का 5 बेसिक, हम लोग डार्विन कोर फील्ड्स बोलते हैं। तो 5 बेसिक कोर फील्ड्स क्या है आपका, जो डिस्प्ले होगा पब्लिक डेटा पोर्टल पे, जो डिस्प्ले होता है वो मैं बता रही हूँ। हम लोग का होता है टैक्सोनॉमिक नेम, फाइल्डाइज नेम क्या है प्लांट का, ज्योग्राफिक रीजन होता है, कंट्री आता है उसमें, इंडिया से है कि पाकिस्तान से, नेपाल से, कहाँ से। फिर हम लोग डालते हैं कलेक्टर नेम, कलेक्शन नंबर और कलेक्शन डेट। ये 5 चीजें आपको दिखेंगी डेटा पोर्टल पे। इसके अलावा जो हम लोग हमारी नॉलेज के लिए एंटर करते हैं, वो एक नोट्स कॉलम होता है, उसमें सारा इन्फॉर्मेशन हम लोग लिखते हैं, और एक होता है वर्बेटिम कॉलम। वर्बेटिम में पूरा लोकेलिटी डिटेल्स डालते हैं, सपोज 12 किलोमीटर फ्रॉम बैंगलोर, फिर वो लोकेलिटी का नाम क्या है, पूरा डिटेल वो सब उसमें जाता है। तो इस तरह से तुम लोग सिंपल अपना अपने लिए एक्सेल शीट में बना सकती हो। तुम मुझे ईमेल डालना, मैं तुम्हें टेम्पलेट भेज दूंगी, मेरे पास एक्सेल शीट का टेम्पलेट है, उसमें अपना फिर एंटर करो डेटाबेस जो भी है।
ओके ओके मैम, एक्चुअली मैम इसलिए मैं पूछ रही हूँ क्योंकि बक्सस के केस में क्या है, मैंने जितने भी पुराने लिटरेचर पढ़े हैं
हम्म
उनके अलावा मुझे कुछ नई साइट्स भी मिली हुई हैं।
हम्म।
तो उनको फिर किस तरीके से डेटाबेस बनाना है ना, तो फिर वही कि किस तरीके से क्या
हाँ,
उसके
पहले तो
रिगार्डिंग।
तुम सिंपल स्प्रेडशीट में सब अपना डालो, और फिर एक कॉलम में रेफरेंस डालो कहाँ से तुम्हें मिला है वो डेटा। उसके बाद तुम इंडिया में क्या क्या कर सकती हो, उसको एक्सेस डेटाबेस में ट्रांसफर कर सकती हो, उसमें नहीं होता है तो एक ब्राम्स है, बॉटनिकल रिसर्च एंड हर्बेरियम मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम। तो कुछ रिकॉर्ड्स के लिए वो लोग फ्रीली अवेलेबल करवाते हैं, ये यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ ऑक्सफोर्ड ने डेवलप किया है। तो उसको भी देखो, ये लिख लो नाम, BRAHMS, ब्राम्स उसको बोलते हैं, बॉटनिकल रिसर्च एंड हर्बेरियम मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम। तो इसमें कॉनिफर का डेटा तुम्हें मिलेगा, वेस्टर्न घाट्स का भी उसमें किसी ने किया हुआ है। तो ये बेसिकली एक्सेल स्प्रेडशीट ही है, लेकिन वो रैपिड डेटा एंट्री में वो लोग कैसे यूज करते हैं, फॉक्स प्रो कमांड से वो सब दिया हुआ है। तो आइडियली यू विल बी सिंपली इंपोर्टिंग डेटा इन एक्सेल स्प्रेडशीट और वो डेटाबेस में इंपोर्ट करोगी। तो उसमें बहुत सारे फंक्शंस है, यू कैन प्रोड्यूस अ PDF, गाइड भी उसमें बन जाता है, रिपोर्ट भी निकल आती है, बहुत कुछ है। ये ब्राम्स के बारे में पढ़ो ऑनलाइन जाके, दैट विल गिव यू मच बेटर आइडिया फॉर योर रिसर्च।
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Raniji, and I hope, Haripriya, all your doubts have been clarified. And anything more detailed, please do write to Dr. Rani, and you can get it sorted out.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Any other participants before we wind up the session? Okay. So
ये जो लिखी रही है बिफोर आई क्लोज, ये हरिप्रिया ने लिखा है, आई एम नॉट क्रिटिसाइजिंग एनीवन बट आई फील वेरी बैड व्हेन माय स्पीशीज कांट फाइंड एनी स्पेस। स्पीशीज को जो आइडेंटिटी मिला है वो दैट्स व्हाट आई सॉ। तो इसको जो है तुम्हारा बॉटनिकल सर्वे के डॉक्टर संपत कुमार है वहां पे कॉम्प्यूटर में, आप इनको भेजो स्पेसिमेन, वो सर अपना हर्बेरियम में डलवा देंगे उसको।
नहीं, हर्बेरियम तो मैम एक्चुअली है। नहीं, मैं वर्ल्ड वाइड बोल रही थी, मैं नेशनल लेवल पर भी वैसे भी ना। तो अगर किसी से मैं पूछूं भी इसके बारे में तो लोग अवेयर है ही नहीं, लोगों को ज्यादा पता ही नहीं है, इवन लोकल लोगों को भी नहीं पता है।
तो तुमने कुछ इसका करंट फील्ड कलेक्शन किया है क्या, फील्ड में जाके?
यस मैम, चक्राता, मसूरी, इधर नैनीताल
किया है तुमने?
yes,
तो वो हर्बेरियम स्पेसिमेंस कहाँ डिपॉजिट किए तुमने?
अभी तो एक तो FRI में ही किया है मैम।
तो तुम्हें दो,
अभी
उसका
वही है
डुप्लीकेट
कि
भी लेना
अभी
चाहिए था
अगर
ना, एक तुम अपने पास रखी हो, एक तुम BSI का देहरादून ऑफिस में भी दो स्पेसिमेन को। डुप्लीकेट्स हम लोग क्यों कलेक्ट करते हैं कि हम कुछ नेचुरल डिजास्टर होता है, मेरे बिल्डिंग में आग लग गई, सब कुछ खत्म हो गया, तो एटलीस्ट यू हैव एन अनदर प्लेस, उसलिए डुप्लीकेट्स कलेक्ट करते हैं। ऑलवेज रिमेम्बर व्हेनेवर यू आर
इसलिए
कलेक्टिंग, नो ट्राई टू कलेक्ट डुप्लीकेट्स एज वेल। और जैसे इंडिया से तो बाहर कुछ भी भेजना बहुत मुश्किल है, तुम्हें NBA के थ्रू जाना होता है। तो आइडियली अगर जो वर्ल्ड में जिम्नोस्पर्म का एक्सपर्ट है वो आलियस फारोन उनका नाम है, ठीक है, वो क्यू गार्डन्स में थे पहले, अभी रिटायर हो चुके हैं। तो तुम बाहर तो अभी नहीं बेच सकती हो कुछ चीजें, लेकिन इंडिया में कम से कम BSI में डिपॉजिट कर सकती हो। तो तुम्हें उधर से कलेक्ट किया है नॉर्थ में, तो अभी ये लोग ने शिमला में भी खोला है सेंटर, और देहरादून में तो है इनका ऑफिस, वहां भी तुम्हें एक देना चाहिए। अगर नहीं दिया होगा तो अभी भी जाके एक दे दो वहां पे स्पेसिमेन।
मुझे दोबारा से फील्ड विजिट करना है, अभी तो मेरा पायलट सर्वे चल रहा है, तो फाइनल सर्वे हुआ नहीं है, तो मैं लिखकर सबमिट कर
हाँ,
दूंगी।
एंड रिमेम्बर व्हेनेवर यू आर कलेक्टिंग ना फील्ड में, पायलट कर जो भी है, यू शुड ऑलवेज कलेक्ट डुप्लीकेट्स, एक स्पेसिमेन का हैव इट इन माइंड, वेयर एल्स कैन आई डिपॉजिट एक और स्पेसिमेन। कम से कम 3 हम लोग कलेक्ट करते हैं व्हेनेवर वी गो इन द फील्ड, एक हमारा ओरिजिनल इंस्टीट्यूट पे रखते हैं, एक दूसरे जगह भेजते हैं, एंड एक जगह और भेजते हैं जहाँ पे उस चीज का स्पेशलिस्ट है। सपोज इफ आई एम कलेक्टिंग सोलोनेसी, वर्ल्ड का सोलोनेसी एक्सपर्ट सैंडी नैप है हमारे म्यूजियम में, तो अगर मैंने कलेक्ट किया है पर्टिकुलर रीजन से, तो मैं एक सैंडी के लिए हमारे म्यूजियम में रखूंगी, फिर एक BSI में दूंगी मैं अगर मैंने इंडिया से कलेक्ट किया है साउथ ऑफिस में, और एक मैं उधर भेजूंगी न्यूयॉर्क बॉटनिकल गार्डन जहाँ पे सोलानम डेटाबेस है। तो यू शुड ऑलवेज ट्राई टू कलेक्ट एटलीस्ट 3 डुप्लीकेट्स ऑफ अ स्पेसिमेन, केवल एक ही नहीं।
जी जी मैम।
और तुम लोग थोड़ा बातचीत ज्यादा करो, तुम्हारा जो देहरादून का है ना FRI, और वो बॉटनिकल सर्वे ऑफ इंडिया, उधर जाके किसी से मिलो, अपना नेटवर्क बनाओ एंड टॉक टू देम।
यस मैम, BSI भी मैंने सर्वे मैं नेथानी सर के साथ ही गई थी, हर्बेरियम का देखने, क्योंकि उनकी चेकलिस्ट निकली थी बक्सेस की स्पीशीज की। तो मैं थोड़ा कंफ्यूज हो गई थी, कुछ स्पीशीज के नेम ऐसे थे जो है ही नहीं उत्तराखंड में। तो मुझे लगा कलेक्शन उनके पास होगा, लेकिन कलेक्शन नहीं था, सिर्फ उनके पास वॉलिचियाना का ही कलेक्शन था, बाकी स्पीशीज का
हाँ,
नहीं
तो
था।
that's quite likely. Your one herbarium may not have everything, so you need to explore other herbarium in the world as well. नेपाल में भी बात करो, नेपाल के पास होगा।
हाँ मैम, नेपाल का मैं वो देख रही थी, फ्लोरा देख रही थी, तो उसमें है। नेपाल सिक्किम का
तो
भी देखा
नेपाल
था
के
मैंने।
वो आए थे ना अभी इधर पर, संजीव राय वहाँ के जो डायरेक्टर है, और वहाँ पे कृष्णा श्रेष्ठा है, और एक संगीता राज भंडारी है, ये सब लोग हैं उधर पे नेपाल में। उनसे बात करो, ईमेल डालो। वो आए थे अभी कॉन्फ्रेंस में
ओके मैम।
अपने कलकत्ता में, अभी कॉन्फ्रेंस हुआ था बीएसआई का फेब में, उसमें आए थे वो लोग।
जी 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 जी।
कोई भी चीज का प्रॉब्लम होता है ना, ट्राई टू रीच आउट टू एज मेनी पीपल एज यू कैन। और वो नॉर्थ का है ना, तो कहाँ कहाँ तुम्हें चीजें मिलेंगी? तुम्हारा देहरादून में होगा, तुम्हारा सिक्किम ऑफिस में भी हो सकता है, फिर तुम्हारे नेपाल में भी जाओ, नेबरिंग में।
मैम सिक्किम में तो मैंने पता करवाया था, वन ऑफ माय फ्रेंड इज देयर, लेकिन वहां पर भी कोई स्पेसिमेन है नहीं। अब मेरे को कैलकाटा जो का मेन है, वहां पर एक बार जाना है। मे बी वहां पर
हाँ
कोई उसका वो हो, सैंपल हो।
हाँ, और तुम ईमेल भी लिख सकती हो ना, वहाँ पे जो इंचार्ज है हर्बेरियम, डॉक्टर गुप्ता है शायद, वहाँ के हेड ऑफ ऑफिस ना, संपत सर, डॉक्टर गुप्ता है कोई वहाँ पे। हाँ, ड्रॉप एन ईमेल टू हिम दैट यू आर स्टडिंग सो एंड सो, यू वुड लाइक टू नो इफ देयर आर एनी स्पेसिमेंस। अगर वो बोलते हैं है, तो फिर जाओ विजिट करने।
ओके ओके मैम।
So Haripriya, I think you can take it at a different personal one-to-one conversation. I'm sure the kind of guidance Dr. Rani has given, that will be of
जी
immense help for your research work and also how to go about. And she has given you so much of a lead on the database. So I hope that's going to be helpful for you. Sir, Sampath Kumar sir, thank you so much for joining today. On behalf of TDU, we thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, sir. So please do come sometime to the TDU Herbarium, sir.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. On behalf of TDU University and the whole herbarium team here, I would like to thank Dr. Rani ji for her immense patience she had to answer all the questions that we had from the participants. And also, I would like to thank BSI scientist Dr. Sampath Kumar and the other participants who took out their valuable time to join with us for this talk. And we keep doing these webinars, and I hope we are able to see you all again. We have a tradition of having a group photo at the end of the talk. So I request all the participants, if you kindly can switch on your videos. Once you all switch on the count of 3, we would like, we'll take the group photo. Come. Oh.
मेरा स्क्रीन बंद हो गया है प्रेजेंटेशन का, बाय द वे।
Quite a few Daksh.
स्क्रीन चाहिए क्या तुम्हें प्रेजेंटेशन का?
ना
नहीं ना?
वो हमने फोटोज ले लिया है.
हाँ।
I just want the participants thing. Anu, Arshi, Abhishek, Lata. This is a traditional way of closing. Ravi Kumar sir, group photo. Okay, nimsham. Group photo.
ये सारे टीडीयू के हैं क्या स्टाफ, इतने सारे?
ना जिनको मैंने पहले बोला था वही हमारे हैं. कम all of you here. Okay. अब पट्टू वहां पे ग्रुप फोटो ले लो. अरुण यहाँ पे ले लो आप.
Come.
Okay, it's done. So just go back to the session.
हो गया?
एक सेकेंड भी हो गया है. We just need one more shot to be double sure. So at the count of 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Thank you so much, one and all.
थैंक यू. अभी कितना बज रहा है उधर पे? 4:30 हो गए? कितने बज रहे हैं वहां पे?